Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. Carl Jung. You think you know desire. You feel it raw and immediate, like lightning striking in the dark. But desire is not innocent. It is a mirror. Every glance that sparks your pulse, every laugh that pulls you closer, it is reflecting something inside you, something you have spent years hiding. It is the shadow you refuse to name, the wound you avoid touching. You are drawn to it because it resonates, because it whispers of a part of you you deny. This attraction is never just about the other person. It is always about the fracture inside your own psyche, the empty spaces you are desperate to fill. You chase the illusion of completion, but the mirror only shows the cracks. The thrill feels real. It lights your nerves on fire, and for a moment it seems like a connection. But pause and look closer. That fire is a trick, a dopamine-fueled mirage. It promises intimacy, but it delivers repetition. Every heartbeat that races is rehearsing old patterns, echoing the familiar ache of abandonment, neglect, or longing. You are not connecting. You are triggering yourself. That pull you feel, the sudden heat of attraction, the rush of wanting, is the echo of an old story. Like a moth to a flame, you are drawn to what might burn you, convinced that the danger is desire, not reflection. It blinds you before it burns, because it is never what it appears to be. The illusion is seductive because it disguises itself as love, as passion, as destiny. And yet, something darker directs the show. Behind every magnetic glance, every intoxicating whisper, there is an unseen puppeteer, your unconscious wounds. The silent architects of your attraction are choosing for you. They are repeating the trauma you have carried, crafting partners who mirror your fears and longings. You think you are free, making conscious choices, but your patterns are orchestrated in shadows. You reach for someone not because they are right for you, but because they are familiar. They hold pieces of the story you never finished, the scenes you left unresolved. And so, attraction is not random. It is a silent narrative, written in the ink of your own pain, rehearsing endings that are never fully healed. Notice the tension between what you want and what is happening. This is the first truth you must face. Chemistry is never innocent. What thrills you, what pulls you, what consumes you, it is reflecting your shadow back at you. Desire is a storm. It exposes where you are broken, where you are raw, and until you see it, until you name it, you will keep chasing, keep burning, keep believing that the fire is elsewhere, when it has always been inside you. You are not at the mercy of random passion. You are staring into a mirror of your own making, and once you can see it, truly see it, the next step begins. I face the shadow, and the mirror no longer deceives me. Where love rules, there is no will to power, and where power predominates, love is lacking. Carl Jung. You think the spark between you and someone is magic. It feels alive, untouchable, a force that drags you into another world. But pause, that fire, that rush of heartbeat and heat, it is not always connected. It is intensity masquerading as intimacy. Chemistry deceives, because it thrives on extremes. The arguments that leave you breathless, the nights that feel electric with longing, the danger you sense in their eyes, these are not signs of love. They are signs of an illusion. The allure of danger is seductive because it mimics the intensity you've always craved, the storm that shakes your inner landscape. You chase it because it promises a kind of life you've only seen in mirrors and movies, but it rarely offers the grounding of true intimacy. The rush is brief, the crash inevitable. The fire that blinds before it burns is not passion. It is a reflection of a hunger for being felt, for being validated, for being seen. You feel alive in it, yes, but alive for what? For the mirror of your own longing, reflected back at you in someone else. You seek comfort, but you find only echoes of pain. It is familiar because your unconscious mind is cunning. You are drawn to patterns that repeat the stories you lived before: neglect, abandonment, inconsistency. You mistake repetition for safety, mistaking the familiar ache for connection. You have walked this path before, maybe in a childhood friendship, maybe in a first heartbreak, maybe in the parent who could never fully hold you. Now, in adults, you unconsciously gravitate toward the same dynamics. You cling to intensity because it feels known, and because it is familiar, your mind tells you it is safe. You crave what you recognize. You believe it is love, but it is not. It is the echo of an old wound, asking to be seen, asking to be healed. Every pull toward someone who mirrors your own trauma is a reminder that comfort is often camouflage, and familiarity can be a cage. Behind every moment that feels like love, there is a shadow, that longing, that hunger, that sense of missing something. They are signals, not truths. Desire is often a hand reaching for warmth. In a cold room, you imagine connection, but what you are truly reaching for is recognition, acceptance, the missing pieces of yourself. Attraction is a spotlight on your incompleteness. The people who enter your life are mirrors, not saviors. They reflect what you need to confront in yourself, not what you need to cling to outside. And until you recognize this, every encounter repeats the cycle. Chemistry is never neutral. It carries the weight of unspoken needs, unmet childhood desires, and unresolved trauma. What feels like love is often a rehearsal of pain. The hand you reach for is not theirs. It is your own, waiting to be held consciously. The illusion is seductive, but the truth is liberating. Chemistry is powerful, yes, but it is not proof of connection. What you feel is a map pointing toward your shadow, toward the patterns that govern you unconsciously. Recognizing the difference between intensity and intimacy is the first step to freedom. The fire that once burned you can become light if you understand what it reflects, and the comfort you seek outside yourself can be found only within. I see the shadow in my desire, and I choose clarity over illusion. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Carl Jung. You think your desires are free, spontaneous, born from choice, but the truth is far darker, far more precise. Your attractions are drafted long before you ever met the person who ignites your pulse. They are written into your psyche by childhood wounds, by moments you can barely remember, by the silences and absences that shaped you. Every longing, every flutter of hope, every rush of anticipation carries the imprint of what you lacked. The hidden architects of your desires are not visible, but they are precise. They whisper to you in patterns, pulling you toward faces, gestures, and voices that echo the past. You are drawn to what resonates with your own inner emptiness. It is not coincidence that certain types feel magnetic, that certain behaviors trigger your craving. Emotional neglect, early rejection, unmet needs. These invisible hands designed the blueprint of your attraction. You cannot see them, but they move you, and until you confront them, your choices will always follow a script written in shadow. And it is not just who you choose, it is how they touch you. You are magnetized by the broken, by the fractured, by the pieces of yourself you have hidden. The person who makes your stomach tighten, who makes your mind spin, often reflects your own unresolved pain. You are drawn to echoes of your wounds, mirrored in the smile of someone distant, the deflection of someone unavailable, the volatility of someone unpredictable. Each pull toward them is a gravitational tug toward the parts of yourself that ache for recognition. Picture a hand reaching out through a fog, grasping at shapes that feel familiar even if they wound you. You are pulled by emotional gravity, by the magnetic field of unresolved trauma. Every attraction is a silent replay of an unfinished story, every chemistry a rehearsal of old pain. And yet in that attraction lies the possibility of understanding, if only you can see the pattern, trace the pull back to its source, name the shadow that guides your choices. The danger is in repetition. You choose the familiar because it is familiar, even when it destroys you. Patterns are traps, dressed as options. You meet someone, you feel the rush, you see the similarities, the mirrored behaviors, the sparks that echo your old wounds, and you step in again, thinking this time will be different. It rarely is. Every repetition deepens the fractures of identity, layers old insecurities over new pain. Your self-concept, fragile and fractured, bends under the weight of unresolved attraction. Each heartbreak, each failed connection, is not just an accident. It is a mirror reflecting the parts of yourself you refuse to confront. You chase what is familiar, even when it hurts, because your unconscious mind prefers repetition over risk. You are trapped not by the person, but by the pattern, by the unseen hand of your shadow guiding every choice, every impulse, every desire. This is the reality of attraction. It is never neutral. The hidden architects of your desire shape your life quietly, invisibly, yet with relentless precision. The magnetism of the broken calls to the broken in you, drawing you to what reflects your inner fractures. And until you face these patterns, the cycle will continue. But awareness is liberation, naming the wound, tracing the pull, recognizing the repetition. These are the first acts of freedom. Your shadow is not your enemy. It is your guide. It points to what must be healed, what must be integrated. Only by seeing it can you step out of the pattern. Only by naming it can you reclaim your desire. Only by facing it can you consciously choose who you become and who you allow into your life. I follow my shadow to its source, and I choose freedom over repetition. Your visions will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakes. Carl Jung. The rush that once made you feel alive now leaves you hollow. The person who once sparked your pulse, who seemed to illuminate every corner of your being, now exposes every fracture. The intensity that drew you in, the stolen glances, the electrifying chemistry, the whispered promises, has transformed into a storm that shakes you to the core. The highs were always paired with shadows you refused to see, and now the thrill has inverted into pain. You feel your chest tighten, your mind spin, your nights stretched into endless reflection. Every memory becomes a question. Why did I believe this was love? Why did I trust the fire that burned so brightly yet left me cold? The illusion shatters like glass against stone. You see clearly now the magnetism that felt like destiny was a trap. A mirror reflecting your own unmet needs, your own unresolved wounds. You are not alone in this collapse. It is the human condition to fall into shadows we are not ready to face. Yet the devastation is not meaningless. It is the signal that something hidden within demands recognition. You are learning that what destroys can also reveal that pain is a teacher. Harsh but honest, illuminating what was invisible before. Every choice that leads here leaves fragments of your identity scattered. Repetition has eroded the foundation of who you thought you were. You glance in the mirror and see pieces of yourself staring back, some familiar, some alien. Your self-image, once confident and cohesive, now feels splintered, like a shattered mirror reflecting fragments of your soul. Each heartbreak, each betrayal, each encounter with shadows externalized within you leaves echoes that reverberate through your sense of self. You ask yourself, who am I, apart from the roles I have played, the masks I have worn, the people I have chased to fill emptiness. The cracks are painful because they are honest. They reveal the unintegrated parts of your psyche, the desires you have denied, the wounds you have ignored. And though the fragments hurt, they are also a map. They point to the places within you that need acknowledgement, the shadows that demand light. You are not falling into chaos. You are uncovering the raw architecture of your inner life, the truth that underlies every choice and every attraction. And then comes the abyss. It is silent, vast, and unavoidable. Emotional collapse is a confrontation with the shadow in its most unrelenting form. The person you thought could complete you is gone or flawed. The patterns that seemed harmless are exposed as chains. You face yourself in the emptiness, your fears, your dependence, your unhealed wounds. The heartache is a doorway. Grief is the lens through which you see what was previously hidden. You begin to recognize the repetitive scripts, the unconscious pulls, the ways in which you abdicate power over your own desire. The abyss is terrifying because it reflects truth unvarnished, yet in its darkness there is a glimmer, the chance to reclaim yourself, to witness your shadow without being consumed, to step into awareness that transforms collapse into insight. You realize that the intensity that once destroyed you can, if faced, become a guide toward integration. I confront the abyss, and in its darkness, I reclaim myself. Nothing has a stronger influence psychologically on their environment, and especially on their children, than the unlived life of the parent. Carl Jung. You believed it was love. You traced every flutter of your heart, every stolen glance, every night spent imagining a future together, and called it destiny. But pause. Look closer. What you felt was never love in the pure sense. It was a projection, the qualities you admired, the passion you mistook for connection. They were reflections of your own unmet needs, your unhealed wounds, your longing to be seen. You filled the gaps inside yourself with someone else, convinced that their presence could complete you. The romantic illusions were a comforting story, but not reality. The tenderness, the intensity, the rush, these were mirrors, echoing what you secretly craved, not what they could truly give. You are not weak for believing it. You were human, reaching for fulfillment in the only way you knew. And now, clarity comes. The illusion deconstructs itself. What you thought was love was often a dance of unspoken pain, a chemistry built on shadows, a story written by needs that had nothing to do with the other person. The chemistry that once felt magnetic now reads like a mirror. Each attraction, each spark, each intense connection reflects not compatibility but unprocessed parts of yourself. You were drawn to what resonated with your wounds, what amplified your insecurities, what replayed unresolved patterns. Picture it as a hand reaching for warmth in a cold room, mistaking the heat of a stranger's fire for home. The passion was never a bond, it was a reflection. You felt alive, seen, consumed, but only because it mirrored the longing and fracture within you. Jung said the unconscious directs us, and this was proof. Your heart was following the echo of your own shadow. Chemistry was never proof of love. It was an invitation to witness yourself, to confront the patterns you had carried silently. To see the illusion clearly is not bitterness, it is liberation. Now comes choice. Awareness is your power. You can no longer mistake intensity for intimacy, fire for warmth, obsession for connection. You can name the patterns, trace the pulls, and step away from the repetitions that once defined your heart. Choosing awareness over comfort is hard because comfort is familiar and familiarity is seductive, but liberation always comes with clarity. To acknowledge that what you experienced was never love is not defeat, It is the first act of self-sovereignty. You can step into relationships consciously, with discernment, with knowledge of your own needs and shadows. You can let desire be informed by wholeness, not projection. You can reclaim the power that was misplaced, not in bitterness but in honesty, not in blame but in reflection. I see the reflection for what it is, and I choose clarity over illusion. Knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darkness of other people. Carl Jung, you have chased shadows without knowing it. You have been drawn to what mirrors your own unhealed pain, convinced it was desire, convinced it was connection. Now the time comes to face the truth. The shadow is not an enemy. It is the map to your liberation. You must meet it, not in fleeting recognition, but in deliberate, unflinching presence. Every fear, every impulse, every recurring attraction that has hurt you carries a message. The hand you reach for in longing is not only theirs, it is your own, trembling in the dark, waiting to be acknowledged. You stand before it now, trembling at first, feeling the weight of your own unprocessed wounds. It is raw, it is uncomfortable, it is intoxicating. You feel a storm inside you, anger, grief, longing, shame. These emotions are not weaknesses, they are signals. They are the textures of your shadow, the parts of yourself that have guided your choices without your consent. To encounter them is to step into a crucible, to face the fire that both destroys and refines. It is in this intensity that transformation begins. Once the shadow is seen, you begin to understand its influence. The patterns that once controlled your life, the magnetic pull toward those who mirror your trauma, the repeated cycles of longing and heartbreak begin to lose their grip. The chains that bound your desire, forged in unconscious habit and fear, start to loosen. You notice the clarity in your reactions. You pause before following impulses. You recognize when attraction is a reflection of unmet needs. You see how old patterns dictated your choices. The mirrors no longer deceive. You feel the liberation in knowing that your heart and mind are no longer puppets to hidden scripts. You are aware, and awareness dissolves the illusion of helplessness. The patterns are still there, but they no longer have power over you. They are lessons now, not prisons. Every encounter with the shadow teaches you mastery over your own inner landscape, over the forces that once dictated your life silently, invisibly. And in this mastery comes power, not the power to control others, but the power to govern yourself. Desire becomes conscious, not reactive. Attraction becomes a choice, not a compulsion. You can see the difference between true connection and shadow projection, between intimacy and mirroring of unmet needs. The strength lies not in avoiding shadows, but in integrating them, in holding the intensity without being consumed, in choosing clarity over chaos. Every step you take away from unconscious repetition and toward conscious awareness is a reclaiming of your own sovereignty. You are no longer driven by what you lack, no longer pulled by the unseen architects of your wounds. Instead, you step forward with eyes open, heart steady, and desire informed by wholeness. You are free to attract what aligns with your integrity, not what repeats your pain. The shadow you feared is now your guide. The intensity that once terrified you is now fuel. The inner chaos that once consumed you becomes a river you navigate consciously. Each encounter with yourself, each recognition of your patterns, each deliberate choice to respond rather than react, builds a fortress of self-mastery. You see the truth of your own nature, and in that truth, you discover a well of power. The magnetism that once enslaved you now points to insight. The shadows that once haunted you now illuminate the path forward. The storm inside you becomes a force you harness, a teacher that has finally been heard. You are empowered, not because the world has changed, but because you have changed. You are no longer at the mercy of unconscious drives. You are sovereign, whole, and awake. I face my shadow fully, and my power rises from awareness. Knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darkness of other people. Carl Jung. The storm has passed. The fire that once consumed you has cooled, leaving behind a quiet clarity. You feel it in the depth of your chest, a stillness that was impossible before, the chaos of unexamined desire, the whirlwind of repeated patterns, the heartache that once tore at you, all of it has subsided into understanding. This is the calm after the storm, a serenity born not from avoidance, but from facing yourself fully. You breathe without tension, you see your thoughts without judgment. You notice the impulses that once ruled you and realize they no longer have power over your choices. The silence is not empty. It is full of awareness. The tension that once demanded action, reaction, and drama is replaced by reflection, by presence, by peace. You are awake to your inner landscape. You recognize the shadows you once chased, and now, for the first time, you can sit with them without fear. From this place of calm comes intentionality. You no longer follow chemistry blindly. You no longer allow attraction to be dictated by unmet needs or unconscious repetition. Instead, you choose consciously. You recognize what aligns with your wholeness, your integrity, your capacity for love, without self-abandonment. Partners are no longer mirrors of your wounds. They are reflections of shared values, respect, and emotional maturity. The pull toward intensity without connection no longer tempts you. You can feel desire as a conscious choice, as a dance between two complete individuals, not a desperate reaching for validation. Every interaction becomes a litmus test for alignment with your inner truth. You attract with discernment, not compulsion. You pursue connection with clarity, guided by the lessons of your shadow, by the hard-earned knowledge that chemistry is not the same as compatibility. Integration is the horizon that opens before you. Every fragment of your identity, every shadow once denied, every impulse once unconscious has been acknowledged and woven into your awareness. You feel whole, not because the world has changed, but because you have. Your desire is free from chains, your heart unburdened by hidden scripts. The path of reactive chaos has been replaced by the light of conscious choice. You see the future not as a repetition of past pain, but as an open horizon, wide and inviting, where every relationship, every connection is a conscious act of alignment. You are no longer at the mercy of impulses or projections. You walk forward in clarity, grounded, empowered, and at peace. This is not the absence of passion, it is the mastery of it. You are awake, aware, and free. I choose clarity, peace, and conscious love over chaos.